So I hope you all are able to hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll get started. Okay. So yesterday, the last problem that I asked you guys to do is integral of sin x between pi by 2 to pi. I hope you know how to do it, right? So what is the integral of sin x? It is going to be minus cos x between pi by 2 to pi. So when you substitute the limit, it will be minus cos pi minus cos of pi by 2. So this value is going to be 0. So minus cos pi. Any idea about how much is cos pi?
Cos of 180.
It is, yes, cos 180 is minus 1. If you don't know, no problem. You learn it in trigonometry. So minus of minus 1 is going to give you plus 1. That is the answer. Okay. Now we have learned integration and differentiation. Today I'm going to let's solve some problems which are based on application of all these concepts in physics. Okay. Suppose the displacement of the object is given as, for example, the displacement of the object is given as 2t square plus 3t plus 5, for example. Okay. Find velocity. So if you observe, the displacement is a function of time. Okay. So the displacement is a function of time. Now I'm going to put two questions. Find instantaneous velocity and find average velocity. Okay. I'll explain what instantaneous and what average means. So when the question is find instantaneous value of velocity, it means you need to find the value of velocity at that particular point of time. Okay. Whereas when they ask you what is the average, you will calculate between. Okay. You will calculate it between. So average for average velocity, let me say between 0 to 3 seconds. Okay. Now, for finding the instantaneous value, this is what you need to do. You need to differentiate displacement. You need to differentiate displacement with whom? With respect to time. Okay. So S is equal to 2t square plus 3t plus 5. So if I differentiate the displacement with respect to time, what are we going to get?
4t cube plus 1.
No, differentiate. No? 40 cube.
40 cube.
No cube.
Oh, sorry, sir. 40. Yeah, sorry.
4t plus 3 is what you're going to get. Okay. If suppose I ask you a question, find the instantaneous velocity at 3 seconds, then what are we supposed to do?
So then we should substitute.
You found ds by dt, no? At t, when you substitute t is equal to 3, you will get 12 plus 3, which is 15. So when you're trying to find the instantaneous value, first differentiate, then substitute the value of time. Suppose you want to find the average value, first substitute and then find the slope. Okay. So this 15 is what is the instantaneous value of velocity. Now, what is going to be the average value? So you need to find the average value between 0 to 3 seconds. Right. So for average value, look at the way I'm going to solve the problem. It is, what is velocity, guys? Everybody knows this, right? It is the rate of change of displacement. Delta S by delta T. So S final minus S initial divided by T final minus T initial. Okay. So displacement I need to find at 3 seconds. minus, I need to find the displacement at 0 seconds divided by time at 3 seconds minus time at 0 seconds. So what is S3? Means I need to find what is the value of S at t is equal to 3. How much is it? It is 2 into 3 square plus 3 into 3 plus 5 minus, what is S naught? It is only 5 divided by 3 minus 0. So 5 and 5 will get cancelled. So 2 into 4 plus 9, the whole divided by 3. How much is it? 8 plus 9 by 3, it will be 17 by 3, whatever it is. Had it been in meter, it would have been meter. Tell me.
Sir, you've written 3 square for 2 square, sir. I mean, 2 into 4 you have written.
Sorry, 2 into 9. Then it will be 18. 18 plus 9, it will be 27 by 3. 27 by 3 is going to give us 9. So if you observe, the instantaneous velocity is 15 meter per second, whereas the average velocity is 9 meter per second. Means the object is accelerating. That is the meaning. Okay. So this is how you apply differentiation, guys. Okay. So one problem we'll do on integration, then we'll go into the main concept of motion in a straight line. We'll discuss the concepts which are there in it. Okay. Suppose I give acceleration is equal to 2t square plus 1. Okay. And if they ask you a question, find velocity between 2 to 3 seconds. Okay. Then how will you do it? So how do you write acceleration in terms of velocity?
Delta V by delta T.
Okay. So delta V by delta T is one way of writing, or you can write it as dV by dt. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll teach the concept first. I thought you can understand this better. No, I'll explain it after I explain the concept. At that point, I'll explain. Okay, write down the heading as motion in a straight line. Okay. So what do you mean by motion in a straight line? So when can you say an object is in motion? If there is a relative change in displacement with respect to time. So if there is a relative displacement taking place with respect to time, can I say that the object is in motion? For example, if I take a coordinate axis like this, or I'll do the reverse analysis of it. If suppose I have an object at point A, okay, and the object, let's say, has got displaced to another point B, and the object has got displaced to some other point C. Okay. If I ask you to track the motion of this particular objects, what can we do? We can take a reference section. If suppose this is moving in a two-dimensional plane, then I can take a two-dimensional surface where I will call the position where I stand and observe as origin. So with respect to origin, let's say you're observing the position of a person initially. Let's say this is at T1 and this is at T2 and this is at T3. Okay. So with respect to origin, is it possible for you to define the position of this person? So if I call this distance as x1 and this distance as y1, you can say that the position of this person is x1, y1. right? Are you guys able to hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if this distance is x2 and this is y2, then this point can be called as x2 comma y2. Similarly, this point can be called as x3 comma y3. So if the position of object is changing with respect to time, can I say that there is a motion taking place in that object? Right? As simple as that. I hope it is clear, right? So motion basically means change in position of an object with respect to time. Right. So here I wanted to tell you an important point. If you see, I took the reference of something, right? So I took the origin as the reference. With respect to origin, I was observing the position of the object at different instances of time. When I did that, I could see that the position of the object was changing with respect to time. And with respect to that, I drew the x-axis and y-axis, which is nothing but something like a photo frame. So if I capture a picture of this, then can I say this whole motion can be put into a photo frame? Right. So this kind of a frame where you're taking certain reference points to analyze the motion of an object is what we call it as frame of reference. I'm not sure if you have heard this word. So basically, frame of reference is a plane or a space where you take it as a reference to analyze the motion of an object. Am I clear, guys? Is this point clear? This point, frame of reference?
Sir, can you repeat frame of reference?
Can you repeat it once again?
A frame of reference is nothing but, you understood this x-axis and y-axis, right? So
Yes,
X and y-axis put together, can I call it as a two-dimensional plane? Right? X is one axis, y is one axis. So x comma y is called as a plane. Right? So I told you there is an object which is moving in the xy plane between different locations. Okay. Suppose, let's say I stand here and I have a camera in my hand. Okay. I click a pic. Okay. I click a pic of all these transformation. Let's say the person in the hand had some white color powder in his hand, where when he was traveling, he put all these powders like this and went, so that I could understand the track in which he was moving. Are you guys able to visualize what I'm trying to say?
yes, sir.
Right. So this person who has captured it, he would have captured this particular pic. Right. So if this is like a pic, a photo, then this photo can be framed. Right. It has a particular frame under which this motion has taken place. And this frame is observed with respect to a person at the origin. So if you're able to talk about a two-dimensional or a three-dimensional, two-dimensional plane or a three-dimensional space where you take a particular point as a reference, in this case, the origin as a reference, you take a particular point as a reference and try to observe the motion of different objects, then that particular frame is what is called as the frame of reference. See, for example, I'll give you another real-time example. Let's say you're sitting in a train. Okay, or else let's take this flight. So when you're flying, let's say you're landing. When you're landing, you're going to be close to the buildings and all those things. So from the flight, let's say you're in the window seat. So when you look out, what will you be able to see? You'll be able to see certain buildings and all those things, right? Right? You'll be able to see certain buildings. Now, You are actually sitting inside the flight and you're moving. The flight is moving. And how do those buildings appear when you see from that place?
Small.
Small.
Small one thing. And are they going to appear stationary, or will you feel that they are moving?
So due to the motion of the flight, it feels like moving.
You'll feel as if it is moving, but actually are they moving?
No.
No, right? Here, who is the observer? So you're the
Person
observer.
inside the field.
Yeah, you're the observer. And you're observing what? You're observing certain objects which are below you. Okay. And you are an observer who's sitting inside a flight which is in motion. Okay. That flight as a whole can be called as the frame of reference. So whichever location or whichever frame under which you're sitting and trying to observe the object is what is called as the frame of reference. You're able to understand? See, for example, you're going in a car. You observe the other vehicles on the road. So what is the frame of reference in that scenario? You're going in a car. You're sitting in the back seat. Okay. And you're trying to observe the other vehicles on the road. So you're trying to observe the motion of other vehicles on the road from which frame of reference? From car. So the car itself is the frame of reference. So frame of reference is basically a two-dimensional or a three-dimensional structure from which the motion of other objects is captured. Okay, anyways, you need not worry much about this point because the frame of reference has more importance in the next chapter. I just wanted to introduce this term and I told you. Okay. So there are basically classifications like frames of reference are classified as inertial, non-inertial, all those things I'll tell you in the next chapter. As of now, try to understand what exactly a frame of reference means. Okay.
Sir, can you just repeat the definition?
Definition I told you in my own words. Two-dimensional plane or a three-dimensional space from which the motion of other objects is observed.
Yes.
I need
Okay,
not
sir.
say okay. I need not say motion of other objects. See, for example, let's say you're doing an experiment in the lab. Then that lab itself is called as the frame of reference. That's it. So that's a three-dimensional space because it takes the shape of a cuboid or a cube, whatever it is, depending on the dimensions of it.
So it is basically to analyze the motion of other objects, right?
It need not be motion alone, it can be anything else, but generally in this case we talk about motion. That's it. Okay. So generally a particular place from where you're trying to observe the motion. See, why we talk about frame of reference? No? It's very simple. See, for example, let's say, I'm not sure if you guys, everybody has experienced this. Most of you, I think everybody would have traveled in trains, right? So when you travel in a train, let's say you're sitting in the window seat. Okay, you're sitting in the window seat and you have a parallel track beside you. Okay, let's say you have a parallel track and your train has stopped in a particular station. But there is another parallel track in which there is a train which is moving, but that doesn't have a stop in that particular station. Okay. When you're sitting, so how are you now actually? You're sitting inside the train. And is the train moving? It is in a halt, right? So when you observe the motion of this train, have you ever experienced that you feel like you're going backwards?
Yes.
Have you guys ever felt
Yes, sir.
it? You would have felt it, right? Though actually you're not moving, you would have felt it actually. Because you're observing the motion of an object which is having a certain speed from some other frame of reference. Right? Whereas when you keep moving, the complete observation will be different. You're able to understand. So the frame of reference plays an important role mathematically to understand and analyze the motion of other objects. It is then, so what we will do is we will do a relative comparison. For example, this train has a speed of 50 km/h. Your speed is 0 km/h. So what exactly you told, right? You'll feel as if you're moving in the backward direction. You know, with what velocity you will actually feel like you're moving in the backward direction? You will feel as if you're moving in the backward direction with a speed of -50 km/h. And it is happening because it's all relative effect. You'll slowly understand it. Don't worry about it. But as of now, if I have to conclude it, the strain is what is called as the frame of reference. That's it. Have that in your mind. So next time when I ask you, you just tell me which is the frame of reference. That is more than sufficient. Okay. Yes. So this is all about the introduction of motion. Now, the next thing is, when you need to analyze the motion of an object, what are all the basic terms in which, or basic terminologies that are used to speak about the motion of an object? Okay. So the next heading is basic terminologies in motion. So what are all the terms we use? First, you use the word distance. So whenever you say a particular object has moved, the first question that you'll ask is, how much is the distance the object has traveled? Right. So what do you mean by distance? It is the total path length. So you talk about the total path length that is covered by the object, then that is what is called as distance. Okay. See, whenever I think I would have told this to you already, whenever you're learning about any physical quantity, see, distance is a physical quantity. Whenever you're learning about any physical quantity, first you need to know its definition. Then you need to know the nature of that particular physical quantity. Then you need to know its SI and, if possible, CGS units also. Okay. So what type of physical quantity is distance? Is it a scalar or a vector quantity?
Scalar.
Scalar.
It's a scalar. Right. Second, what is going to be the SI unit for it?
Meter.
Meter. CGS? Centimeter. Okay. This is distance. Now, what about the other thing? That is speed. So what do you call speed as?
The rate of change of motion.
Rate of change of distance. So if you are able to calculate how much is the amount of distance that is changing in a particular time interval, that is what we call it as the speed of that particular object. Okay, for example, positions A and B. So the position of the object is D1 at a distance, D2 at some distance, and T1 is here, T2 is here. Then how can I define speed according to this particular scenario? So how much is the distance covered by the object? If I take this as the origin, I'll call this as D1 and this as D2. So it is D2 minus D1, the distance covered by the object, divided by T2 minus T1. So I hope you guys are able to understand this. So the total distance covered by the total time is what is going to be called as the speed. So is speed a scalar or a vector quantity?
Scalar.
Yeah.
It is again a scalar quantity, and the SI unit is going to be
Meter per second.
meter per second, and CGS is going to be centimeter per second. Okay. The third is displacement. So displacement is generally represented by the symbol S. So what do you mean by displacement?
So the shortest path
Shortest
covered
path.
by
Traveled by an object.
So what do you mean by shortest path?
Sir, it's a straight line between 2 points.
That's right. So if you see everywhere, I will draw a graph. Okay, that is how I look at problems. So let's say there is an object which is moving between 2 points A to B in 3 different paths. Let me call this as path 1, path 2, and path 3. Out of these 3, which one is the shortest distance? Obviously, path 2. And that is what we call it as displacement. So if 2 points are given to you, displacement. So if 2 points are given to you and you want to calculate the displacement, what are we supposed to do? join the endpoints with a straight line. That's it. That is going to give you the answer. Okay. See, for example, let's talk about a circle. So there is a point A and there is a point B. Okay. And there is a person who's moving in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay. And let's say the radius of the circle is R. So when person has moved from A to B, what is the distance, guys?
Sir, half
Pi
of
r.
the circumference.
Half of the circumference. How much is it? It is pi r. But if I ask you what is the displacement, what will you say?
Sir, it is diameter.
That is 2r. Okay, I hope you're able to understand these points, right? So when displacement is going to be the shortest path, the next question that we need to answer is displacement a scalar quantity or a vector quantity?
Vector quantity.
Vector.
It is a vector quantity. Since it is a vector quantity, there are other important points to be noted with respect to displacement. Displacement can be positive, negative, or 0. Okay, displacement can be positive, negative, or 0 because it has direction also associated with the magnitude. Secondly, the magnitude of displacement is always less than or equal to the distance. Why am I using the word less than or equal to? Will it not be always equal to?
Yes, sir, it won't
No,
be.
sir.
It can be equal, sir.
It can be equal. For example, we had the previous scenario itself. The distance and the displacement are not same. If you observe, displacement is 3.14 times r, whereas distance is 3.14 times r, whereas the displacement is only 2 times r. Okay. So obviously it's a vector quantity. All those things have come. Again, the SI unit is meter per second. CGS unit is centimeter per second. Okay, next. So what is the counterpart of speed in vector?
Velocity.
It is velocity. So how do you define velocities?
Rate of change in displacement.
So rate of change in displacement or rate of change of displacement is what we call it as velocity. Okay, these are all the terms which you guys already know. So velocity is generally represented by the symbol V. And how do you write Vs? So V is written as delta S divided by delta T, which is nothing but total displacement by total time. And this value is called as average velocity. Okay, so average velocity means you will always calculate the slope. Okay, we write it as V average. Secondly, you have instantaneous velocity, the velocity at a particular instant, which is called as ds by dt. Okay, this is called as instantaneous velocity. Okay. So now we have a question. So if somebody asks you what is the average velocity, what will you say? Or rather, how will you calculate the average velocity? You will calculate by finding the total displacement first, and you will know the total time and divide both, you will get the answer. If somebody asks you what is the average speed, what will you say?
The total distance by total time taken.
Yes. If somebody asks you what is the average speed, it is the total distance by total time. Okay. So have a note of this point. And similarly, this velocity is also a vector quantity. It can be positive, negative, or 0. Right. Now, what is going to be the SI unit for it? It is meter per second, and series unit is centimeter per second. And the last physical quantity that we are going to see is acceleration. So what is acceleration, guys?
Rate of change of velocity.
So rate of change of velocity is what we call it as acceleration. So A is equal to delta V by delta T. So this is average acceleration or instantaneous acceleration?
It's your average.
By now you should have figured it out. Average acceleration, because I'm calculating delta of something by delta of something. Whereas if I have it as instantaneous, this will be dV by dt. This is the instantaneous acceleration. Clear, guys? Okay. Now, I'm going to prepare a table. Observe. So first, if I have displacement, I need average velocity, and from average velocity, if I need average acceleration. Okay. So if I find the slope of displacement time graph, okay, slope of S is displacement, T is time. So slope of displacement time graph will give me average velocity. Then slope of velocity time graph will give me average acceleration. Clear? If I have to do the reverse, means I have average acceleration in my hand and I want to find the average velocity, then I will find the area under acceleration time graph. And here I'll find the area under velocity time graph. Guys, did you understand what I told? See, by now, I'm hoping that everybody would have figured out that velocity is nothing but rate of change of displacement. But rate of change of displacement according to a displacement time graph is slope. What about average acceleration? Average acceleration is rate of change of velocity, right? So if a displacement time graph is given to you, then on finding slope, what do you get? You get velocity. When velocity time graph is given to you, on finding slope, what do you get? Acceleration. On finding the area, you get displacement. If suppose acceleration time graph is given to you, on finding slope, what do you get? Actually, there is nothing with respect to slope here. On finding the area, what do you get? You will find the velocity. So having all these points in mind, now I'm going to derive the equations of motion under constant acceleration. Equations of motion under constant acceleration. So can someone tell me what are all the equations of motion that you have?
V equal to U plus AT.
Yes. S is equal to UT plus half
AT square.
And V square minus U square is equal to
2AS.
2AS. Right. So this is actually a question itself. Equations of motion under constant acceleration. One, you will find it using graphical method. And the other you will find using calculus method. Okay, now listen to this. So the first equation of motion, V is equal to U plus AT. Okay. So I'm using the graphical and slope approach. Okay. So V is equal to U plus AT. We know that acceleration is equal to delta V by delta T. So whenever you are going with graphical method, you will use only the slope concept. So A is equal to delta V by delta T. So when you're moving from point A to point B, let's say the initial velocity of the object is u, the final velocity is v. Okay, and let the time here be 0 and the time here be t. So A is equal to, can I write it as v final minus v initial divided by t final minus t initial? So what is v final? V minus u divided by what is t final? T minus 0. So v minus u divided by t is A. So from this, what can you conclude? V minus u is equal to AT and v will be equal to
U plus it.
v u plus AT. So this is a simple derivation. Right. So v is equal to u plus AT. Secondly, for S is equal to ut plus half AT square, I'm going to consider a graph like this. Time and velocity. Okay, time is always taken on x-axis, velocity always on the y-axis. Okay, so we know the equation that v is equal to u plus AT. So how is the graph for this? It will be a straight line which is starting from this point. So for those who don't know how it has come, I'll explain. V is equal to u plus AT is there, right? So what are the two variables you have here? What is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable?
Sorry, independent is time.
Very good. And dependent is velocity. So if I put t is equal to 0, what will be the value of v? If I put t is equal to 0, what is the value of v?
Sir,
U.
Yeah,
U.
it is u. If I put t is equal to 1, what is the value of v? It is u plus a. If I put 2 here, it is u plus 2a. If I keep on writing like this, if I put t here, it will be u plus at. So assuming that the object is accelerating, means a is positive. Okay, I will take this point as 0, u. So what are the coordinates, guys? X is 0, y is u. 1, u plus a. 2, u plus 2a. It keeps on going. T, u plus at. Okay. So this will be 1, u plus a. 2, u plus 2a. It keeps on going like this. So this equation, this point will be t, u plus at. So when I drop a perpendicular, right, what is our interest of study here? You need to find the displacement. So if velocity time graph is given and you're asked to calculate the displacement, how will you do it?
Area of it.
Yes. So
Area
you
under
calculate the area under this curve, then that area is going to be the displacement. Okay. Now see. So if I label this as OABC, so what is the area of trapezium? OABC.
Sir, we can even divide it like a part of
Rectangle and a
rectangle.
triangle. Yeah, you can do that, but you directly have a formula for trapezium itself. No, area of trapezium is half into base into sum of parallel sides. Okay. So half into, how much is the base, guys? This point is 0, 0. This point is t, 0. So how much is the base? It is t. So half into base into, what are the sum of the parallel sides? This height is u and this height is u plus at. So u plus at. So it will be half into t into 2u plus at. So it will be 2ut plus at square divided by 2. So 2ut by 2 plus at square divided by 2. What is this called as according to physics? This is what is displacement. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. So S will be equal to ut plus half at square. Okay. So displacement is equal to ut plus half at square. So is it over? Is it over, guys? So for v square minus u square is equal to 2a, what I will do is, from 1, we know that v is equal to u plus at. So time will be v minus u divided by a. Let this be equation number 1. Similarly, from second, we know that s is equal to ut plus half at square. Take this t and substitute it here. So s will be u into, what is the value of t, guys? It is v minus u divided by a plus half into a into v minus u divided by a the whole square. So uv minus u square divided by a plus half into a into v square plus u square minus 2uv divided by a square. So a and a will get cancelled. uv minus u square divided by a plus v square plus u square minus 2uv divided by 2a. So multiply with 2 here and divide with 2. So you will get 2uv minus 2u square plus v square plus u square minus 2uv the whole divided by 2a. 2uv and 2uv will get cancelled. V square is written as it is. Minus u square plus u square is minus 2u square plus u square is minus u square divided by 2a is s. So what will you get? V square minus u square will be equal to 2as. Okay. So this is how the equations are derived using the average value. Okay. Now I'm going to explain something important. Okay. This is an often asked question in most of your school exams. That is, they ask you to derive the equations of motion using calculus method. Okay, we need to find the equations of motion using calculus method. So first one, for v is equal to u plus at, guys, how did we start the derivation? With the definition of what did we start? Can you look at your notes and tell me?
Acceleration.
Acceleration. What acceleration?
Sir, average.
Average acceleration, right? So whenever it comes to calculus, you should always use instantaneous value. So A will be equal to, how do I write the instantaneous value? Wait, if I'm not mentioned it here, I'll mention it here.
Velocity with respect to
dv by dt. I mentioned it, no? So acceleration, if I take it as dv by dt, now what I will do is dv will be equal to a into dt, right? So yesterday I told you, if you want to remove the differential coefficient, what are we supposed to do?
integration.
Yes, integrating on both the sides. What do we get? Integral of dv is equal to integral of a dt. Okay. Now see, this is the crucial step. Okay. See, whatever is inside this d is the variable. Here also, whatever is inside the D is a variable. Now you need to check. You have only one thing, so no problem. So observe, is acceleration constant with respect to the variable time?
No, sir.
But I told you, equations of motion, whatever you have derived, is applicable only under constant acceleration. No? So you can use all these three formulae only if you have a constant acceleration scenario in the problem. Right? Now rethink and tell me, is the acceleration constant with respect to time?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So whenever you have a constant multiplied with a variable, and whether you're differentiating, integrating, taking summation, or whatever you're doing, the constant can always be taken out and the integration can be done only for the variable. So what I'm trying to say is, I will say integral of dv is equal to a into integral of dt. Did you understand?
Sir,
So
how
A
are
will
you
come
defining A is constant, sir?
because equations of motion, these three equations are applicable only under constant acceleration. What are we trying to do? We are trying to derive the equations of motion using calculus method. No. So all these equations of motion, you're deriving it for constant acceleration. If not, you cannot take A out. Please make a note of this point. So all these three equations are applicable only under that scenario. And the reason being, only if the acceleration is constant, you can take it out of the integral, or else you cannot take it. Okay. You will understand it better when I do problems where acceleration is not constant. Okay, as of now, accept for the time being, accept that acceleration is constant. I will definitely show you what happens when the acceleration is not constant. Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay, sir.
Now, if v is a variable and here t is a variable. So I told you, with respect to integration, you need to take the limits. So the one which you write at the bottom is called as the lower limit. So when you write the lower limit on the right hand side, you need to write the corresponding lower limit on the left hand side. Means what I'm trying to say is, if an object is moving from point A to B, okay, and at t is equal to 0, if the object is having initial velocity u, then at time t, if the object has final velocity v, observe the way I'm going to write it. So here t is a variable, no? So when t is 0, what was the corresponding velocity here? It is u. Similarly, when t is t, what is the corresponding velocity here? It is v. Did you understand what I did? This is a crucial step. This is what I told. If you understand this, remaining things are easy. Is everyone clear with this? Is everyone clear with this step, guys? Yes or no? Okay. So, what is integral of dv? Yesterday I told you, integral of derivative of something will give you the variable which is inside. So, integral and derivative are counter operations of each other. So, integral of dv will be v. After you integrate, you will remove the integration symbol and you will introduce the limits. U to v is equal to a into, what is the integral of dt? T between which two points? Between 0 to
0
t.
t.
Okay. Substitute the upper limit in the place of v minus the lower limit in the place of v is equal to a is a only. Substitute the upper limit minus the lower limit. So v minus u will be equal to at, which implies v is equal to u plus at. Okay. This is
So can you
the first.
scroll about this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sir, can you once again explain like that steps, sir? Upper value and upper limit and lower limit.
Sure. For taking the
So you can
limits,
scroll down.
yeah. See, for taking the limits, you should always look at the variable. Okay. So how will you know which is a variable? You need to look for the term D and the term inside it. So whatever is inside the D is a variable. I hope that point is registered, right? So if you observe, the right-hand side variable that I have in my hand is time. Did you understand why I concluded the time is a variable on the right-hand side?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, the left side variable that I have is velocity. Now, when I integrate, I need to take the relation between those two variables in terms of lower limit and upper limit. Okay. So I'm trying to take for time, what was the initial condition at which the time started? Time started at t is equal to 0. That is when you started the stopwatch in your hand. Let's say it's a 100-meter race. And your objective was to calculate the velocity of the particular velocity of the runner. You started the stopwatch at t is equal to 0. And let's say the person started with initial velocity u. So when your stopwatch started, what was the velocity that person had? It is u. Right. So you stopped it at some time t. Let's say after 11 seconds, you stopped it. Okay. Then you're saying that the person's velocity is v. Did you understand how I took the limits?
Okay, sir. But both the limits should be equal, sir. Both L
Not
and
equal. No. They should be related. I never told equal. Means here, what is the input? So for for the initial instance and the final instance, we are trying to calculate the velocity parameter. Okay. See, for example, just a hypothetical question. Let's say here the displacement is SI and the displacement is SF. Okay. And suppose I have a relation like this. Integral of ds is equal to some constant into integral of dt. Tell me, how are you going to take the limits in this scenario? You should always first look at the independent variable. So the independent variable here is time. So what is the initial value of time with which the object is starting?
0.
So at t is equal to 0, what was the corresponding displacement we had? It's SI. So what was the final time? At time t, that is when my stopwatch stopped, the displacement of the person is SF. Now you carry out the remaining integration process. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So because anyways, this is going to be our next derivation since it's 5. Okay. Okay. So we can do one thing. We'll discuss this in the next class. But before that, revise this and come so that you'll understand things better. As I told you, as of now, accept that the object is under constant acceleration. As I told you, in the next class, I will explain after I complete the derivations on what will happen when the acceleration is not constant, so that you'll understand things even more better. Okay. So any other doubt from today's class?
Sir?
Tell me.
Sir, I had this doubt, sir. So in the question, what if they give like just velocity, not like mention initial velocity or final velocity? What should we consider it as, sir?
That depends completely on the scenario. This question is ambiguous to me.
Sir, like
Okay,
if they ask like for if it is from rest, then we should take u as 0 like that.
That is one scenario.
I would understand. See, I can have a situation like this. Answer your question. I can have a situation like this where there is a person, let's say he ran for 400 meters and he took a break for 2 seconds. When I say break, what do you understand from that?
Time is 2 seconds.
No, time is 2 seconds. When I say he took break, what did you understand from that?
He comes to
Means
rest.
he's resting. He's resting, right?
He's
So
resting.
here the velocity is 0. Means if the person is again starting to run for another 400 meters, here the person is starting from rest. Does that mean it is the initial velocity?
Yes, sir. It is initial.
That is the initial velocity of the second journey. Actually,
Yes.
his journey has started here itself. Maybe he didn't start from rest. So rest, I just wanted to clear that misconception. Rest doesn't mean initial time. Initial velocity is 0. I mean, rest is not considered as the initial status. Rest can happen in between the journey also. That is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, Giridhar, to answer your question, right?
Yes, sir.
It depends on the scenario, right? It's not a generic case. Based on
Okay.
problem only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. I'll see you all guys.